Many historians claim that ancient Indian mathematics and astronomy were the result of the introduction of Greek influence after Alexander and the Indo-Greek era. So before Alexander, there was no mathematics and astronomy in India, right? Because many of the great mathematicians and historians like Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta lived after the Indo-Greek era. What are the facts? Okay, Brahmagupta lived in the 6th century AD. Uh, Aryabhatta is said to have lived somewhere in the first half of the first millennium AD, and so on. But and so on. Now let's understand some chronology. Alexander comes to India about 320 something BC, right? 327 or something BC. Before that, was there no scientific technological advancement in India? Were we living in straw and grass huts? Were we living on the trees? Were we eating raw meat? Did we have no civilization in India before Alexander? Is that the case? We had the Saraswati Sindhu phase of Indian civilization, of Indian history. So let's look at it chronologically. If we look at Greece, the oldest historical era of Greece was Mycenaean Greece, which is about 1750 BC to about 1000 BC. Mycenaean Greece. But that's not the classical ancient Greece. The classical ancient Greece is about 1000 BC to about 1 AD, or until the Roman conquest of Greece, which is before 1 AD, which is a few years before 1 AD. It was done by Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. So they conquer Greece, and after that, Greece is permanently subjugated. So ancient Greece was roughly 1000 BC to whenever Julius Caesar conquered Greece. And before ancient Greece, you had another period, which was Mycenaean Greece, which was 1750 BC to 1000 BC. Now, Greek mathematics and whatever science, etc., that's in the ancient Greece period, which is about 1000 BC to about, let's say, about 50 BC. That's when all of that happened. The city states and so-called democracy and the Peloponnesian War and technological advances, the hoplites, the cavalry, um, and whatever science and mathematics and astronomy the Greeks came up with. All of that is from 1000 BC to about 50 BC. Okay. Now, when it comes to Indian history, the Saraswati Sindhu civilization phase of Indian history, the oldest Saraswati Sindhu settlement that we have found thus far is Birana in Haryana, which goes back to 7500 BC. That's about 10,000 years before today. Compare that with 1750 BC of Greece. Now, the early Harappan, so-called early Harappan phase is about 3500 BC, and the mature Harappan phase is 2600 BC. During the mature Harappan phase, 2600 BC or thereabouts, you have tremendous technological advancements in India. It is a fully urbanized civilization. You have standardization of of weights and measures. You have multi-storied buildings. You have enormous harbors. The harbors at Lothal and Dholavira. One of these two harbors is larger than the modern harbor at Vishakhapatnam, where the Indian aircraft carriers can be accommodated. So our Harappan era ancestors built harbors that could accommodate today's aircraft carriers. You had tremendous feats of hydro engineering and whatnot. Do you think you can have these accomplishments without a knowledge of science, technology, mathematics, etc.? And all of this is way before Greece was even dreamt of in somebody's mind. So if you look at the facts on the ground, it completely contradicts these claims by whatever historians that Indian mathematics and astronomy were the result of the introduction of all this from by the Greeks. What utter nonsense! The Greeks were primitives compared to India. I mean no disrespect to our Greek friends, but India predates Greece by thousands of years, by at least 5,000 years. That's just a fact, right? So yeah, Brahmagupta lived recently, Aryabhatta lived recently. In the context of the entirety of Indian history, these guys lived recently. It's like day before yesterday. But that's how old Indian history is. So if you just look at the fact that we have such an incredibly technologically advanced phase of Indian history about 3000, 4000 BC, way before Greece, It tells you that we obviously had tremendous advancements in mathematics and technology and astronomy. Okay, mathematics and technology long before Greece. When it comes to astronomy, we have been recording astronomical events for thousands of years. Where is that? Let me Google that and put it up. Okay, supernova, um, Kashmir. Okay, so let's put this up on the screen. Our ancestors have been recording celestial events, astronomical events for thousands of years. So here's this article by the Guardian. Let's see the Guardian article. Two suns? No, it's a supernova drawn to 6,000 years ago, say scientists. So this stone carving from Kashmir's Burza Hama site was thought to depict a hunting scene for decades. But now Indian researchers have discovered that this is the oldest depiction of a dying star. There are see, essentially two suns in the carving, and there's a hunter, and there's a deer, and there's a dog, and so on. And this actually represents a sky chart, a chart with constellations and the location of the sun and the location of a star that exploded. And if you use astronomical software and you try to find when was the last time a supernova happened in this region, you have to go back about 6,000 years before today. It's supernova HB9 that exploded about 4,600 BC. So we have been recording astronomical events from 4,600 BC, thousands and thousands of years, 7,000 of years. Our calendar. So when the Greeks came to India, the Greek the Greek ambassador Megasthenes, who was based in Patliputra, the Mauryan court, he said that the Indians have this calendar called the Saptarshi calendar that dates back to 6,000 something years before today. So if you have a calendar that goes back 6 7,000 years, calendars are based on observations of cycles of solar, lunar, and astronomical cycles. And we had a calendar that went back 6 7,000 years. So to claim that we had no understanding of astronomy, you cannot have a calendar, uh, even a rudimentary calendar, without a decent understanding of astronomy. And we had a great calendar. So all these claims, when you look at them factually, they evaporate into nothingness.